All right, welcome to Vortex Garage, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Spitfire. So we're going to start off with a really quick update on where we are with it, and then we're actually going to be doing a little work on it today. So the first thing, hopefully things look a little bit different. We've kind of changed how our Spitfire is sitting, and that's because we're kind of rearranging things a little bit here in the garage to try to make a better work area, a permanent work area for this restoration project. So the project was a bit on hold as we did that. I had to do a little bit of cleanup work, some stuff we'll cover in a future update, just rearranging everything, straightening it up. We'll kind of show you around and show you what we did, but that's really not what today's about. Today's about the Spitfire. Now there's something I'm not sure you can see from behind that camera. Of course, we had talked about it a little earlier, and we'll show you with this camera right here. So now, of course, you all remember we spent some time in one update showing you the powder-coated frame that we had from the other Spitfire and how we were going to kind of use the two, which unfortunately the other one is just so incomplete and so bad off. This car is essentially the one that's going to get restored, but we're going to use some parts off the other one, parts from both, really to make a great car. So I've gone ahead and taken that frame, we've cleaned it up, we've got it set up, and that's sort of why we have things set here, and we're going to show you that. Now first off, the Spitfire itself, as again, we've rotated it about 90 degrees and kind of pushed it back to give some work room here. So just with this camera, we've got it set up here, as you can see. It works out really well. We've still got a little bit of room back here that we can work with the buffer, the grinder, or some of our other metalworking tools that we have. Of course, it gets a little tight up here when you pull a car into the bay to work, but that's not really a problem because the entire length of this car is going to temporarily shrink down. And by temporarily, well, probably for a little while. Okay, so obviously where we're standing, it's pretty bare. But let's turn around here and show you what we got. Here is our frame and a lot of the other parts that we've had powder coated. I've got them all kind of laid out and cleaned up. So we've got various suspension components, got the springs, sway bar, some of the rear suspension, I guess a trailing arm kind of deal, which I do have a second one of those, I just don't have it laid out. Of course, we've got the frame up on some jack stands. We've got it all cleaned up. And we've got a couple movers blankets down to keep it clean. And then again over here, we've got the Spitfire. So the plan for today's work is that we're going to take this car and basically disassemble it down to the rolling chassis and get the body off the frame. So the whole idea of what we're going to do here is the space that the car's parked in right now is going to be where we have the body and the hood to get all the metal work done and get refurbished, cleaned up, and then eventually painted. We're going to take the rolling chassis, the original one, and move that into the center area right here. And then with that, we're going to be able to use it both as a frame of reference and parts and whatever else we need. So we can take this clean powder-coated frame and build it up. So the idea is that this area right here is going to be our new rebuilt frame, eventually a rolling chassis with engine, transmission, rear end, wheels, and tires. This will be our area where we have our frame of reference and any parts that we need. And then eventually it'll just become, I guess, parts, whatever's left over. And then over here is just going to be all the bodywork area. So what that kind of allows us to do is utilize this space a little better and also keep this area where we're going to have a little bit more dirt and dust. The center area where we're going to have some dirt from the frame and the old parts, and then kind of a more clean area over here. Eventually, once this gets rebuilt, gets repainted, the body will be able to come back and rejoin on the new frame. So that's pretty much it. So what are we going to do today? Well, first and foremost, like I mentioned, we need to separate the body off the chassis. So we're going to remove the hood. We're probably going to pop off the windshield frame and, well, perhaps even remove the windshield. We're going to clean out the car the rest of the way. We've been tossing some junk in it. So as we were cleaning things up, this is a box I had some of those old parts in. And basically then we're just going to come in and strip everything down and get the body unbolted and lift it off the frame. So that's the plan. Let's go ahead and hop to it. I guess we better move this Camaro out of the way. What do you say? I think just about every good Spitfire video starts with cold start in this Camaro. All right, let's see. Hope the battery's not dead. All right, so the first step, we've gone ahead and cleaned out most of the junk that we had put in here. There's still a tiny bit of stuff to take out, but then we're going to start removing as much of the interior parts as we can, which it's pretty easy when they're not bolted down. So. All right, so next we'll start with some of the big panels. I'm going to leave the doors in place for now, but we're going to come through. We'll take the hood off, the trunk lid. We'll look at taking the windshield frame off, which is already pretty loose. Get the other seat out. This one's actually bolted in the front. And then we'll just start taking all the small stuff out. So that's kind of how we're going to start. All right, so we're making headway. We've got the trunk removed. We got the hinges unbolted and the support rod taken out. And then we lifted the trunk lid off. Now we're going to work on the hood. So I've already gone ahead. We've disconnected all the electronics that go to the front. We've removed the 2 front headlamps. So it's pretty simple. All we need to do, we're going to disconnect our support rod, obviously with someone supporting the hood so it doesn't fall on you. And then we're going to lower the hood back down. We're not going to latch it. And then in the front, there's some very easily accessible bolts, 2 hood hinge bolts. Once those are out, the entire thing should just lift straight up and off. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out what we need to get this off, and then we'll get it disconnected. Just go ahead and zoom in there. It looks like 2 stacked bolts on the back side. It's kind of weird. All right, I will take this off if you don't mind going to the other side and just holding the hood forward, knowing that when I take the support off, it'll actually be possible to roll it back even further, which you probably don't want to do. So it's a little heavy, but I'll help hold it too. I'm just going to loosen the bolts first, okay, and then I'll take the whole thing out when we're ready. So there's one. Okay. All right, the whole thing's coming out. It didn't want to wait. All right, so I'm just going to fold that back. Okay, and then we can go ahead and lower this down. Nice and gentle. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm going to see if I can just zing it off without putting anything on the back side. Yep. There we go. Woo. That might be hot, or at least warm. These have been in there for a while. Sorry, shark. All right, so this thing's going to be heavy, but it should all be disconnected. Okay. So what we're going to try to do is just walk it around to here. So you can grab the hinge unit and then reach into the headlight. Okay. And then into the headlight. Okay. And then just slip straight up. Okay. And then I'll let you come around. And we'll just walk it back here. We'll set it down. All right, so we got the hood off. We can see in pretty good now. Definitely a little easier to work on. And get a good view of everything. You can really see all the stuff that somebody over the years has painted everything red. The overflow bottle, the radiator cap. Of course, the springs are yellow. And there's various bits of blues everywhere, but everything's in pretty good shape. Of course, it's old and it's rusty and it's dirty, but the frame's intact. Nothing looks damaged or pushed in here. Everything looks nice and straight. So actually, all in all, looks pretty decent. All right, so I think the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the windshield frame. Might take the windshield out before we do that, because normally you'd have to cut this stuff away, but it's so dry rotted, it's literally just peeling off. But once we get this stuff peeled off, the windshield's literally just going to come right out. And this windshield, unfortunately, it's got a spot here, but it's also got some spidering cracks there, so this windshield's pretty much toast. But we're going to get it out so that we don't have any problems with it. we're working. I mean, it's not going to shatter, but you don't want to get glass bits on you if it does. Should be safety glass, or at least non-tempered. Which we know it's not tempered because it's cracked. If that was tempered glass, it would have broken into a zillion pieces.
Okay.
That's why they don't use tempered glass on the windshield, because if you get hit by a rock, all that stuff, or in an accident, it would just turn into millions of shards and hit you in the face. Yeah, so it's going to come right out. All right, so what we're going to do, you can put that screwdriver down. We're going to push it from the top, and we're going to slide it forward, and then we'll pick it up out. So push it forward. Okay, now go ahead and move your hand to the side. And then pick it up. All right. And then we'll carry it over. All right, then we can peel this up, what's left of it. This goes in the trash heap.
Snakes, please.
Nope, no snakes. Now we just got to figure out how to unbolt this the rest of the way. Looks like someone already started. This is why it was loose. Looks like there should be bolts here, or screws, and there's nothing, so the whole thing feels loose up there. I've actually never taken one of these out. Yep. So on the side, if you open your door, I see 2 bolts, and then there's nuts inside. You have 2 bolts right here?
Yep, here?
Yeah. So there's like little arms that come down, and you can feel them back here. They have nuts on the other side. I think that's what's holding these on. So we're going to need to get a socket behind it, and then a wrench up here and take them off, and then this whole metal frame assembly should come off. And then we'll really have a convertible. All right, ready?
Yeah, it feels like there's something on my side too that's threading that.
All right, just yank it. Yeah, mine was just, I think they wrapped vinyl around the bottom of it or something. All right, ready? Yep, there we go. All right, you got it? It's pretty light. Just, no safety. Oh, sorry. This is cool. All right, I'm done. Oh, wait, how do I get out? Oh, good. It doesn't matter. All right. So I'm going to try to get the seat frame out right now, which is all rusty. I'm just going to try to take these 2 bolts off the front. Stupid door won't stay open. There it goes. Okay, put that out. So let's see. Oh, it's gross under there. We got it. go. There we go. There's some. You can really see some of the rust damage. Yeah, we're gonna need a floor, but that's all pretty good. So it's really just the pans. And this is the area that, you know, as it sat outside for many, many years, even with the seats in it, collected water, the water stayed underneath it. There was no top on it, so the sun would come out, the water wouldn't evaporate too quickly from this area because it was under the seat, and it just ate the floor away. So it's great because this spot actually, and near the rockers, is pretty sound. Even same under here. It's really just this inner part of the pan where you can really feel it's loose. This isn't bad. And of course, we'll really find out when the entire thing is blasted and we find out what's left. But it's actually, you know, not too bad. So here's a seatbelt anchor, other seatbelt anchor for your lap belt. More random vinyl. One thing we noticed too, I don't know if you can see on the camera, the original, as the car was blue, the original interior was blue like the seats. Most of the vinyl has been sprayed with some sort of a black paint or vinyl dye by one of the previous owners. You can really see it good here. All right, hopefully you can see this, but removing the, I guess I should bleep this out. It's the oh shit handle, or the oh bleep handle, oh crap handle, I guess you call it. But basically when someone's driving crazy and you're wondering if you're going to roll over on that nice windshield frame, you hold on to this. And it's got 3 bolts that attach it behind the dashboard. So pretty easy to remove. Uh-oh, breaking that wood veneer. This back together so we don't lose it. Looks like that was actually a nut on the stud on that one. It ended up taking the piece out of the whole thing. It was so rusty. All right, otherwise we've gone ahead and pulled the vinyl off the dash pad. Once we've got that, now that the grab handle's off, we could actually take the whole bit of vinyl off of the dashboard itself after we remove the gauges. But we'll get to that a little later. It's kind of skipping around, but need to work on the front panel stuff. I've gone ahead and bypassed one of the heater hoses so that we can keep our engine intact without draining all the coolant out of it, you know, in case we want to go for a drive. And otherwise, because I don't know how we would, we'd have to get our pedals worked out. But we're going to move on and just start taking this stuff off on the front. Did a little bit of vacuuming there. Now I'm just going to spray some rust penetrant on the old bolts, let it sit for a while, and then we'll start pulling that stuff apart. Also in the back here, we're going to want to come and take all these tail lights off. So these are the older style tail lights. I really want to save these. These are good. Some of these are glass, so they're very fragile. So I want to come through and get these put away, cataloged, and off the body, because you know, when this gets blasted, all this has to be out of here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. All right, so I think next I'm going to work on the wiper motor. And a shorter socket. pull our cable straight out of the cable sheath there for the wipers. So basically, the way this works, the motor basically spins this and it acts like a screw or a gear, and it would mesh up against your spindles. And as it spins one way, it'll kind of screw in this way and then pull out, and as that motion will basically turn your wipers into this. Kind of a weird design, but now the actual cable itself can stay in the body for the time being. And in fact, that whole assembly we didn't necessarily have to take off to separate the body and the chassis, aside from to get the wiring loose. But the cable sheath itself, that is up underneath our dashboard, so we're going to figure our gauges out to get access to that. In the meantime, let's put these back where we took them out. Good news is this feels pretty solid right here. Remember, our battery box was totally rusted out. Again, it's another spot where water pooled in as it was sitting. But this actual top piece right here, underneath the blower motor, seems pretty solid. Same here, and this feels like metal, not fiberglass or Bondo or anything. So, and most of the wiring is held in with these flexible metal pieces with some rubber over them. So you just bend them out of the way, and then the wiring comes loose. Got a lot of ground wires on this one. Pretty much every ground. One. There. There we go. There we go. Those wires are separated. Go. First set of wires, and I'll probably mark where these went, even though I'm not marking the whole loom. This general bunch right here, so when I run new wires, I'll know the general lengths of what I need. It's like the starter solenoid, power distribution block, whatever it is, and everything. Then we've got our throttle cable to take off. Looks like our heater control. And of course, we know how these work from our other video. I'm just going to do the cotter pin. We'll disconnect our pedals from these assemblies. What I'm probably going to do this time, though, is rather than remove the actual master cylinders from the brackets, I'm probably just going to remove the brackets, because I can set those aside after we take the body off and clean them up separately, take them off at a later time. This one. Basically, the way these work, the pedal pivots on an inside piece, but basically bolts right up to the piston arm of the master cylinder. So it comes off just the same. I dropped a little washer down underneath. It's not a huge deal. I'll get that later when we clean it up. For the time being, just going to put the cotter pin back in, at least part way, so we don't lose that piece. All right, so that's good. Now I'll do the same for the brake. There we go. So washer, that piece, and we'll move the ram out of the way. And then wash. There we go. Okay, so we got our clutch disconnected. I see the flat blade. And hope I can get this one undone, which you probably not. Oh my god, I can. Look at that. I wasn't expecting that to come loose. Alright, so there's our clutch out of the way. There's all that nice nasty stuff that was under it the last time we worked on it. And this line, you might remember when we started our Spitfire, we weren't sure how we wanted a mechanical oil pressure gauge to check everything out. That's what this is right here. So I just zip tied it to virtually everything. Let's go ahead and remove our brake master cylinder. Looks like there's nothing else holding the brake line to the body. So it's just going to be 4 bolts like we did here. On that one. There we go. 2. Oops, 4. Lost the washer there. It's somewhere under here. That's all right. There it is. Okay, so our brake. There we go. All right, just a quick update on the front of our car here, or front of the body tub. So we've got, again, the brake and clutch master cylinders removed. We've still got our oil feed line for our gauge to remove. I did remove our tachometer cable. We've got all the wiring done and removed. The heater hoses are removed, and I went ahead and just circled, looped in the block so I wouldn't have to drain it. Other than that, we did get that red cable. I kept calling this the throttle cable. I was wrong. Of course, that's the choke cable that hooks up here. The throttle linkage is a bar that comes up from underneath, so I went ahead and detached that. So all that's still in the car, obviously, but now essentially this part of the body, I think except for the wiring, is no longer connected to the chassis of the car. So we got to do the wiring, pull the gauges apart, feed all the wiring through the body and get it off the chassis. And then we should be good to lift the body off once we get the bolts done. So we are making headway. Okay, all right, so I think we're getting close to have our instrument panel out. There's 2 little 10mm nuts on the back here, and they're actually almost hand tight. I don't know if there should be that way from the factory or if this has been worked on before by someone. Probably someone back here doing something. Grasp it's a little tough. Okay, so there's one. And got it. Now let's see if we can show. Brackets. Nice thing is, I can worry about that later. All right, there we go. Now all we got to do is disconnect all this, and then this will come out. Here's our cable. And then each one of these too, you can actually take the gauges out pretty easily. So let's just unhook this one. This way it kicks. And basically you would unscrew these little thumb screws. Just hopefully. There's one. I'm going to do this one. And then this gauge would pop out. Cable, and there you have the tachometer. fuel. And we can leave most of the gauges in. We'll probably take the speedometer out because it also has a cable which goes to the transmission. And also this is your trip odometer. See, as you rotate this, that's what you use to reset your trip odometer. But we'll disconnect the speedometer cable and all of our electrical and lights. And then we'll pop this off the same way. But that's what we're going to do now. We're just going to go through and disconnect these. They all disconnect a different way. You just sort of have to take your time and figure them out. And we'll get this out of the way, and then the whole main wiring loom we should be able to run out of the car and get it out of the body, and we'll just lay it against the chassis for the time being. Okay, so we'll press ahead.